What's going on, guys? Dan from SSG bringing you another Edison format deck profile. This time I am profiling my Magical Nightmare deck. It's a pretty awesome Magical Merchant combo deck. And I also have Tim in here who is going to chime in and maybe ask a couple questions because this is a pretty unique deck and we'll get right into it. We have the full 3 copies of Magical Merchant. Now this is the main combo piece of our deck. We're looking to mill a bunch of cards over, anywhere between 10 and 20 cards into the graveyard, and go and search one of our 2 copies of Recurring Nightmare. And Recurring Nightmare is going to let us add very powerful dark monsters back from our grave to our hand that have 0 defense. And really a combo deck where we build a bunch of resources out of the graveyard and kind of just get some really nasty things going. And Merchant's a really powerful card. I think it's really underbuilt around. We then have 1 copy of Sangan, just as a 4th copy of Merchant. It's very powerful. We have full 3 copies of Dark Grepher. This is kind of a big main piece of our deck. He allows us to really go off. And when you don't draw Merchant, you need to have a lot of starters in your deck to make the deck functional, because you do play a ton of monsters, and Dark Grepher is a really big part of our game plan. We have 3 Hamsters and 3 Rykos, just kind of our starters in this deck. Like when we don't draw the Merchant, these are cards that can really get things going for us, mill some value into the graveyard and start getting things going. Even if we draw an early Recurring Nightmare, just get it live so we can get some value out of the graveyard. We then are running 3 copies of Vayu, as well as 3 copies of Sirocco. So, yeah, the Vayus and Siroccos, they're just kind of nuts. Like, they're just going to be free mills for us off of Merchant, and there's some really nasty stuff once you actually get the entire combo off. But no matter what, if we're milling a bunch of cards in our grave, these are just going to be coming out of the graveyard for value and really make some really strong OTK pushes. Yeah, very, very good here. Also, Vayu does have 0 defense, so if we can get that back out of the graveyard for some Dark Grepher fodder, that is something that does come up. 3 copies of Caius. Can't really be a dark deck without 3 Caius. You can enable this card in a few different ways in this deck, and it kind of just does its thing. It's Caius. It's very good. We then have Plague Spitter Zombie, really powerful and integral part of our game plan. And I like to play 1 copy of Mizuki as well, just as like a high leverage mill out of our deck. Being able to get 2 uses out of the zombie, master is really the Plague Spitter Zombie is really powerful. Being able to like have a teleport out of the graveyard for free and then have Plague come back in addition as well, just really, really strong. And once you get those big mill turns, it's really, really easy to go off with these cards. Speaking of Zombie Master, you can play Zombie Master because it does have 0 defense and it's like a searchable discard outlet out of the graveyard with the Recurring Nightmare. But I just found that it kind of bricks in the early game, and these cards are like a little bit better to draw than the Master. So yeah, Plague really strong, and Mizuki is a reasonable card to draw and great in the graveyard. 2 copies of Phantom of Chaos. This is a great card to add back off of Recurring Nightmare. It's just very powerful. It's going to copy some really busted things. And this is kind of like the main combo plan of course, we're playing the 1 copy of Norellis here. Being able to mill this combo into the graveyard and then search out our Recurring Nightmare to add the combo piece back is really, really powerful, especially when you have multiple value out of your graveyard, whether it be Vayu in your grave after you have resolved Norellis' ability, being able to put a fast clock into play from the Vayus, or even just straight up kill them with multiple Vayu activations, or like a Plague Spitter Zombie setting up a draw for your draw off of Norellis can just straight up kill them. So really strong, powerful combo here that is basically searchable in this deck once you have resolved a Magical Merchant, which I like quite a bit. And then we have a toolbox of 0 defense monsters that we would like to grab back once we mill into our graveyard. We have 1 copy of the Levelator. It's a 0 defense monster. You can add it back for value, or it can just come back out of the graveyard as an extra 600 points of damage when you're attacking, making your kind of big push. It's really valuable to sacrifice for Caius, and there's a lot of monsters we can take levels off of in this deck, so very good card to mill here. We have 1 copy of Battle Fader. I like the 1 of as just a way to search it, like being able to search a defensive card off of your Recurring Nightmare is really strong, and I think, we're not really playing many spells and traps to defend ourselves with, so I think having it in the main deck is just good already, but the fact that we can add it back out of the grave from Recurring Nightmare, very, very strong. We then elect to play one copy of the Jester Comfit, just sort of a combo piece for Caius. Being able to special summon this card and then sack for Caius immediately is just totally fine, and this is definitely gives you access to some weird synchro plays, makes Mistworm a little bit easier. Same with Level Leader, just the level 1s can really get you into some unique levels in the extra deck. And being able to add this card back as a one-of out of the graveyard is really powerful. We then have Chaos Necromancer. This card is pretty sweet. This guy, he just gains 300 attack for each monster in your graveyard. And he has 0/0 defense to start. So you can bring him back from the grave. This guy has gotten up to 6,000 before. He's just kind of nuts. You can just get, 10, 20, however many creatures into the graveyard, and he's just a normal summon that will literally win you the game. But there is a unique way to actually just win out of the graveyard, special summon this guy, and we'll get right to that. I like it just as the easy win condition. Like, it's just a one-of that, like, if it lines up, the game is over. And it's just a really powerful card to get back in a grind game when you have a lot of monsters in grave and you're resolving one or the two reoccurring nightmares. Just really good card. Just your opponent has to answer it or they're dead. And just kind of a weird card that doesn't see enough play. I like it. It's pretty sweet as a one-of. We then have my boy, Mist Archfiend. For those of you who don't know, Mist Archfiend, you can normal summon him without paying tribute, but you will take 1,000 at the end phase. He dies and you take 1,000. Kind of a downside, but I think he applies some unique versatility to this deck. He's a normal summonable, like, 1-for-1. He just has to be dealt with or he's going to run over something. He's also a 0 defense monster you can grab back from the Recurring Nightmare, and a level 5, which is extremely important for being able to special summon Dark Grepher. Being able to add a level 5 or higher monster back off a Reoccurring Nightmare is extremely important, as you can just make a lot of extending plays by special summoning that Dark Grepher, not committing your normal summon yet, whether it be being able to go off with Dark Grepher, then sacrifice it for a Caius. Mist Archfiend's also level 5. You can reborn the Level Eater off of it. This card does a lot of unique things. Being able to normal summon this and then bring back Plague Spreader into a level 7 synchro, and for Black Rose is very strong as well. I'm advocating for this card quite a bit because I like it a lot. I've had a few deck lists run 1 to 2 copies of this, and it's just a great, solid, like, little unique card that is pretty valuable for this deck as a one-of.
Plus the artwork is super underrated.
The artwork the artwork in this era was so sick for Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, all these OG secret rares I never saw any play. Tim is so right. Like, such a sick card. Mist Archfiend. We then have 2 copies of the Dark Creator. This is what I was sort of talking about. Like, if you can clear the board, drop a Dark Creator, reborn your little level 1 Necromancer, the game literally is over. Like, your opponent's dead. And that's an easy way to win the game. But only 2 copies of the Dark Creator here because you just don't want to brick on it. You have 2, though, because you want to mill it into your grave and copy its effect with the Phantom of Chaos. Just really strong card. I think this card is wildly underplayed. I mean, the first time I went into Edison format, I said, whoa, Dark Creator is actually kind of nuts. Like, this card just goes over the top of, like, any deck strategy in the format, and it just does a lot of work. And when you can stack this onto the top of your deck with Plague Spreader and then resolve the Norellus effect, it's literally impossible for you to lose after that. And this is a sort of setup you try to aim for. Really, really great.
Like, just that is 8,000 with the Necromancer. Never mind if you have the values and stuff. So
exactly, and also it just helps you with your draws where you're not drawing like the nuts off of a merchant or anything like that. Being able to get 5 darks in your grave is pretty easy with like a Raikou flip and a Dark Grepher. So this card's going to be excellent for us. 1 copy of Chaos Sorcerer. I kind of added this card last minute because I realized, like, the brick potential isn't actually that high with this card. You have the 3 merchants as well as the 3 Raikous, and you also have the 3 hamsters. And if any of those cards flip, your Chaos Sorcerer is immediately live, and I think that's just totally fine. And, if you mill anything, this card just is going to be live, so why not have it in the deck? It's a good extender. It can be copied with Phantom of Chaos. Just solid card. We have the copy of Dark Arm Dragon, of course. Ton of darks in grave. You're not always going to drop this guy because you're going to be milling 20 cards at once. But Dark Arm in the games where you don't mill a bunch is just insane. And obviously, like, the Dark Creator, Dark Arm Dragon synergy is also insane with value effects and stuff like that. You're going to easily control your graveyard as long as it's not over flooded with darks.
Another good one, a copy of Phantom Chaos.
Another one, yeah. Phantom Chaos is nuts. Like, it dodges bottomless. Like, it just comes in, calls priority. It's like, okay, now I just have a Dark Harp. Like, nice. Very powerful. We have one copy of Gores here and one copy of Trag, the last two monsters. Just these two in combinations with the one copy of Battle Fader just is our line of defense. These cards are going to be great for us as we're going to have a high hand size until we actually try to combo off our opponent. And yeah, and just going back again, of course, the last two cards are the two copies of the Nightmare. You play two because you don't want to draw the one and then, like, theoretically deck out. The reason you can do that if you would like to, because you can win on that turn, but there are just some setups that you can't break through, and you need to actually draw the card off of Norellis to win the game a lot of times. There's some situations where you can't stack a card with Plague in order to, like, draw the card. You will just deck yourself, so just the two is fine. If you draw one, you're just, like, in such a good spot. Now your merchant's going to be, like, insane. But even just the two, the card is great. I've been building a lot of decks with it for a long time now, and this, I'm glad to finally bring you one that I'm pretty happy with. Another OG, like, from that era, like Secret Rare, that's just disgusting art. I love it so much.
Thoughts on Necrogardner?
Yeah, Necrogardner. He was on my side for a minute there, but I actually cut him. I think Necrogardner is, like, pretty solid, but being able to search, like, a Battle Feeder, like, for some amount of the time, as well as Gores and Trag, is usually good enough for, like, the defense on this deck. And but Necrogardner is good. I think it's a reasonable card. We have extra deck, Armor, the Catastor. We have Bryonic, Goyo, Black Rose, Stardust. We have the Colossal Fighter. Best card in extra deck, so busted, is Dark End Dragon. One of my favorites. Thought Ruler, Mistworm, you can make that quite a bit. You have the three copies of Armed Wing. All three, because you can summon all three in the same turn. You need them. You have the one copy of Armor Master. In the more grindy games, he does come up. You can remove the Armed Wing and a value to make him. And, of course, we have the Chimera Tech for the Cyber Dragons on the sideboard. In the sideboard, all three copies of DD Crow here. I like to be as preventative as possible in these combo decks. I don't, you can't really add too many spells and traps into this deck because of the merchant synergy. So we want just, like, hand traps, like some way to interact as a piece of cardboard, that it's like a monster to interact with what your opponent's going on. So three copies of this. Also, it's a dark monster, which is very relevant. Unfortunately, it doesn't have zero defense, which why can't it just have zero defense? Like, that would be amazing. Like, does it really need the 100 stat in defense? Moving on, two copies of Cyber Dragon. Card's fine. I think in this deck it's not the greatest because, like, it's a light. It's kind of like just does its thing. It's just like a normal Cyber Dragon 1-for-1 type of card in this style of deck. But it's a good card. We're going to play it in the side. We have a second copy of Battle Fader here. I think this is kind of the slot I was messing around with the Necrogardner. I do think this is a little bit better because you really just need that one turn to really go off, and this card really can just, like, make sure you live so that you can, like, flip the merchant and kill them, or not die through, like, them attacking into your merchant, something along those lines. And being able to add it back from Recursion Nightmare is insane. I have another copy of Jester Confit for the when you're going second. I think it's really important. I've been kind of adding these, like, one-of extenders into my sideboards for going second in Edison format because, like, Caius is such a detrimental card if it comes down from your opponent on turn one. You need some sort of way to come back, and I think having your own Caius to counteract their Caius, or even just, like, whatever board position they have, is very powerful. I uploaded... I built a deck with a Diva Hero deck. It had an additional, like, instant fusion on the side for going second. This is just kind of like an idea I've been liking quite a bit. It's just getting more things that you can just put into play and sacrifice for Caius on turn one to sort of, like, flip the tempo back when you're on the draw. I think it's a pretty good card, and I think Jester Confit is, like, a fine card in general in these style of decks. So. Another little sideboard engine here, an additional copy of Phantom of Chaos, and another Norellis. I think there are just some matchups that are, like, really hard or really fast, and, like, you really need to, like, be a strict combo deck. This deck can kind of win sometimes when you mill, like, 8 to 10 cards and get a recurring nightmare, you can kind of like value them out of the game a lot of the times. But like there are some matchups where you just strictly want to be a Norella's combo deck, and being able to have this combo be a little bit more consistent for 2 slots in your sideboard is very good. It's not really necessary to go all out in the main because you have a sort of value plan with Greffers and fast starts with the value effects and things like that. So just adding these two to the side for the matchups where you feel like you need to be a little bit faster. Some spell and trap destruction here. Heavy Storm Trunade. I think you might want to cut one of these. I think Trunade's a little bit better since you still get the cards that you bounce back to your hand. Plays around Starlight Road as well. You can send all the cards to the grave after you've bounced them back to their hand with Norella's anyway. But Heavy's a little bit better in the games where you're kind of grinding out. You want to actually get the value. So these cards are kind of like interchangeable in my opinion, but I elected to go with both. You can side like whichever one's better in the matchup you're playing. You can side one out, leave one recurrent nightmare in. That's sort of like the game plan I've been going for, but I'm still kind of working on this sort of sideboard game plan. 1 copy of Lightning Vortex. I do actually like this quite a bit in as a one of coming in for the 1 copy of Nightmare. Being able to do like having a like searchable out against like dragon decks is kind of insane. Like if you're able to set a merchant and then live on that turn, you can completely blow them out if you just be able to search your 1 copy of Lightning Vortex. So I do like it as just a searchable board wipe. Very strong card. Same kind of goes for Deck Devastation Virus. Like any deck that just gets destroyed by this card is searchable, and it's really easy to enable in this deck with the Mist Archfiend, with the Caiuses, with the value getting Armed Wing out of the extra deck. You can search this card with Merchant, and it's quite powerful, and it's going to win some games. I also have 1 copy of Treacherous Trap Hole. Again, just searchable removal. I think in a lot of like grindy games, like this is going to be a little bit better than Lightning Vortex if the game's going a little bit longer. And decks that have like setups like Christia plus a Nova Summoner, like this card just blows them out. And being able to like get yourself out of a situation like that and being able to search this card off a Merchant is quite good. And I think it's a little better than Lightning Vortex in those situations. So I do have it here. And then, would not be an SSG profile without the 1 copy of Trapped Dust Shoot. And the reason why I run this card in this deck is because it would not be an SSG profile without Trapped Dust Shoot. That is literally the only reason. There's no reason why this card should be in this deck except for the fact that it's an SSG profile.
Also, you can search it though.
You can search it.
Can't search it.
You can side out your magical your nightmares, and then then you could just play the 1 Dust Shoot if that's really what you want to do. I like Tim's energy over here, but you know us SSG boys, you know we just gonna draw the Dust Shoot. We're gonna Dust Shoot them, right? We're just gonna open it anyway, and then we won't have to worry about it having affecting our magical merchant effects here. That's about it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck in the comment section below. This is one I kind of been working on for quite a bit. I hope you guys enjoy it because it's a sweet deck. I mean, Reoccurring Nightmare, you have the Phantom of Chaos, you have like Value popping off, all these like weird one-of cards. Really powerful, and I think that this deck has some potential. I mean, when you flip the Merchant, it just feels insane. Like it just like it's kind of nuts. Sometimes you'll brick like here and there. You'll miss on like a Merchant trigger. You only like mill 6 or 7, but like you can still get some value, you know, off of the Reoccurring Nightmare. And yeah, I like the deck quite a bit. It's a lot of fun to play. When you really go off, I mean, you just literally can't lose. So I like combo decks that can give you that game 1 edge where you can just get them. That is about it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck in the comment section below. And without further ado, this is Dan V and Tim V from SSG signing out.